Hello, YouTube. This is episode 3 of Compound Fractures series. Suzerain series. Why do I keep forgetting that name? I guess it's not that memorable of a name. Suzerain. We will remember the name and we will play the game. Yes, we will. Starting out today, let's cover the news. Rumors of an infrastructure project. Well, those are not rumors. We have confirmed the infrastructure project and our budget has gone down in accordance. Gang violence has claimed a young girl's life. Oh, dear. This is a paper that we do not trust at all. Affiliated with the game Coronelli. Okay. Gang violence killed a 15-year-old. Okay. The Radical says 1927 never again. Interesting. No more civil wars, they say. No more martial law. I agree. We cannot have martial law in this country. The real truth behind the economic crisis, large corporate businesses time and time again receive money from the government under the disguise of helping the economy. But what about the people? I couldn't agree more, Radical paper. Meanwhile, economists say Underhaul Construction was once again picked as the #1 construction company. Well, we will have to nationalize them, won't we, friends? Geopolitico says Rumberg closed the consulate, which we already learned about. We do not trust Rumberg and their ties to the West. So let's look at reports from around our country. In Vesord, there is a report about the United Contana Embassy helping protesters. Red youth protesters clash with young swords. United Contana Embassy helped the Red youth to escape. We support that. We may be drawing closer to this Eastern Alliance if they keep helping out our youth who are only trying to fight back against the fascists. Oh, here's an update from Welland. The latest diplomatic message from the leader of Welland warned us regarding a pathway from the mountains of Bergia that allowed traitors of the state escaping to Swordland. Do we like Welland? No, we don't. We want to help their traitors, not hinder their traitors. Okay, we may have another enemy there soon. We are making plenty of enemies, friends, and very few allies. This seems like a recipe for disaster. Now we must give a reaction to our people as we address the crisis. Chief Strategist Dinosaur has prepared several action plans. So what will we do? Interesting. We could call for restraint. I don't like. This is a class war after all. Restraint only services the interests of the right. Visit affected towns in person. That would be nice. We could show our support. It's dangerous. We might be assassinated. Label all protesters as traitors is not an option. I repeat, not an option. Expand the police. We already decided not to. Or we could reject all of these plans. So really, I'm only tempted by 2 of these things. Either visiting the affected towns in person or rejecting the plans. I'm going to choose to reject the plans. We can come up with a better plan. What's the news? An idle government. We should have visited the towns, we really should have. Yeah, that was another big mistake. We have made 2 very concrete mistakes so far in this game that may have cost us allies among the left, which is what we truly want to reach out to. So we must be introspective and understand the weaknesses of our policy as we move forward. Back in the palace. We do enjoy cigarettes. I don't think it's the time for whiskey, though. We could just relax and think about the good life, or we could go home to our family. Let's light a cigarette. Help take my mind off the stress. We do enjoy cigarettes. And they'll only kill us in the long run. We're worried about the short term here and the potential for assassination. Decades in the future can take care of themselves in the future. My secretary entered. Mr. Tusk, eh? Who is Mr. Tusk? Walter Tusk, millionaire businessman, investor, and the current spokesman of the Lotharberg Group. He owns that newspaper that we hate, the Economist's paper. Interesting. He controls much of the energy industry. Don't worry about it. You're doing your best, secretary. You were, after all, hired for your looks, unfortunately. Mr. Tusk swaggered into the room. Cognac, preferably from before you were born. I hate him. I hate him. Very, very much. Okay, what do you want? Congratulate? Okay. Get to the point, please. No, I'm not welcoming. We will use his language of business against him. Please continue. Yes. I see he is telling us that he speaks for all of the capitalist class. Well, if he offers us a cigar, we could not take it to make a point that we don't need anything from him and we do not want to live the opulent life. Or we could just take one because cigars are delicious after all. I think we will make a point of not taking it. Okay. It is worrying to him that we have decided to promote a planned economy. I don't mind that we disagree. He wanted the high-speed rail line. That's plenty of reason to not have pursued that path. Our goal was to focus on the needs of the people, not business. Businesses will help these people get employed. You know what would also help the people get employed is founding industry for the good of everyone. That way people will not merely be employed, but will also have equal access to goods. It's quite simple, my dear friend, Walter Tusk. Goodwill. Jeez. All we have is bad will towards you. Ugh, he will bribe me. 6 months of a president's salary. Oh dear. Our secretary does not have a cognac that is good enough for him. That's beautiful. Well, the only two options we are considering are no, I will make my own decision, a refusal, or did you just try to bribe the president of Swordland? I refuse, which is a provocation. I am concerned that a provocation will hurt the people ultimately by provoking a flight of capital, especially in a situation where we need to show some economic results, despite the fact that our country seems to be plunging into chaos. There's no chance we will take his bribe. None. But also, I don't see a reason to provoke him at the moment. I do like the idea of threatening imprisonment, because I want to imprison this man. He deserves it, after all. But I'd rather imprison him by surprise, so he won't be able to fight back. We are going to finish this visit. Oh dear. He's invoking his alliance with another one of our wealthiest jackasses in this here country. Oh, I see we've had a follow from Burger Kinky. Welcome to the channel, Burger Kinky. It's great to have you here. If I may be so bold, Mr. President, did you accept his offer? Of course not. Jesus. No. I don't mind telling you either. Other girls have told me about all kinds of dealings that went on during the Alfonso administration. I wasn't sure if you were that kind of president. I am not that kind of president. Pretty little head. Jeez, this game and its pretty little secretary. I suppose it is based in the 50s, so we should accept some casual misogyny from the game. It's a product of the time, after all. But this is 2020, and we can look back on these things with utter contempt. Yes, we can. Okay, finalization of the highway contract. I think we are going to go ahead and finish this highway. It is for the people, after all. And it'll improve the Angland region. Do we trust Simon's plan? Our Minister of the Economy has not seemed to have the interests of the people in mind in previous meetings, so I don't know how much I trust him. So let's say I hope so. That's good. What will it take to stop the recession? Follow the project up with several other investments. I agree, but our budget is low right now. We started with a 3 in budget, and now we are down to a 2. Okay. Let's look at the files. 3 corporations were listed. We do not want to invest in these corporations. We would like to create new, what they would call here in Canada to be crown corporations, although that's a ridiculous word. What we would like to create is industry for the sake of the people, not the sake of private property. Which corporation should we talk about? I mean... Oh, yes, this is what we want. The Swordfish State Corporation. I didn't quite realize that. That is our state corporation. Good. Good, 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 good. Okay. I like the SC, but I do want to hear about the others. Underhaul, a real estate and construction giant founded in 1925. They expanded during the economic boom. Picking this corporation would go against our planned economy policy, which makes us say no. They took several contracts and left much to be desired. Out of all the three, so they are out. They are straight up out. That's terrible. Terrible, terrible working conditions. I mean, it's not gonna. No. Not sure about them, not at all. What about Taurus Holding? Who are they? Founded in 1946 and owned by the entrepreneur Gerard Faze. New holding company whose subsidiaries use cutting-edge technology. We do like cutting-edge technology, and we like a unionized workforce. But at the same time, they will make money off of the backs of our people. Yes. I agree. We shouldn't risk it. And more importantly, we shouldn't put our money in their hands. Don't feel confident at all. We have settled on the SSC. Okay. Company will be notified today. I think we are off to a good start. We shouldn't congratulate ourselves too soon, people. We have a lot of work to do. All right. We are, in fact, building our highway. What's going on here? Situation along the border is getting tense. Increasing patrols, okay. This is worrying. Local police are working with the nationalist. Shocking. Shocking. Who knew that when we decided not to trust the police earlier in this playthrough, we were right. They are working with the nationalists. That's terrible. The police must be brought to heel. Now we're headed to, this is the meeting that we set up earlier with Marcel Carenti. Where are we, Serge? We are nearing the HOS Country Club. Oh boy, Heart of Soul. It's not the place we want to be, but it is better to tell this man off to his face than to not tell him off at all. Pieter is here, and so is Dinosaur. I can't think of comfort when our country is descending into chaos. We are, after all, a president of the people. After opening the marble-engraved wooden door, we were greeted by two tall women. Their receptionist led us to the meeting room upstairs. Marcel was standing by the window looking outside at the beautiful complex. He turned around to have a quick look at us both. He was a really handsome man with fair hair. He walked towards me with his hand reached out for a handshake. Well, shall we shake the man's hand? I suppose. Dinosaur says it's a pleasure to meet you in person, Mr. Carenti. I appreciate your efforts to reach out for a mutually beneficial friendship. Pieter says thanks for hosting us. I admired your father very much. May he rest in peace. These are my advisors, people. Ugh, we need better people around us. We do. Welcome. Your kind words have touched me, Vice President. He was indeed a great man. I'm going to stay silent. It's time to look forward. Let's talk about our bright future. I heard about your meteoric rise. Oh, he says he's flattered that we are truly going to be the best president this country has ever seen. He says that because we have gone against the odds and survived. I respect that more than anything, he says. Number 3 is terrible. We do not want to quote a Lannister here. That wasn't a Lannister, was it? That was Littlefinger. Either way, an asshole. Seems we had similar experiences as not quite true. He's, see, let's just make sure we know who we're dealing with. I think we already, we certainly do. He's not showing up here, unfortunately, but oh well. I'm just going to say thank you. Be non-committal here. Past months have been tumultuous, to say the least. He's glad that me and my family were unharmed. So am I, really. The whole incident must have been a shock for the kids. Yes, it was. They aren't used to what we lived through back in the late 20s. I still remember when my father took us out to the country when it became too dangerous in Conriat. Well, no wonder it was too dangerous when you were exploiting your workforce. So, now we have a choice between being gracious and being rude. I think we will choose to be gracious. Well, I'm known to be a straightforward person, so let me get to the point without wasting your valuable time. I appreciate that. It was during the Alfonso campaign when I was struck by what you have done within the party. He starts to look at one of the paintings. Let's quizzically or puzzily look at Dinosaur. He looked back at me and shrugged, then raised his eyebrows, something which he usually did when curious. Marcel pointed a finger at me. You said we will transform this nation, Mr. Rain. My conglomerate has a way of doing things, and I don't want them to change. So I want to cooperate with you. Please explain further. You might have the people's support now, Mr. President, but what happens when you make mistakes? Well, we have already made 2 major mistakes in this game. I am weary of making a third. Everybody makes mistakes, he says. Yes, we do. What is that supposed to mean? Let's hear his point, Vice President. Being a president in this country means having many enemies, enemies that would resort to anything to bring you down. Let's say these enemies caused a scandal or leaked sensitive information from the administration. Oh, that is a threat. Yes, it is. These would be destructive when they were released, if they were released. He is playing a dangerous game. We are all dangerous men playing dangerous games. What do you want in return? Let's get to the point. I want 2 things, Mr. President. Number 1 is a guarantee from you that the Rain administration won't meddle in HOS affairs, no matter what happens. He will never receive that guarantee from me. Never. Number 2 is a simple gentleman's favor for the future. Let me prove my services to you first, and I'm sure you won't disapprove when the time comes. That is far too risky for me. Great risk means great reward. The mutually beneficial cooperation will help you greatly. I can guarantee that you will see its benefits sooner than later. We can make history together if we dare to challenge the odds. You have been awfully silent, Pieter. He's rarely silent. I think he is getting more out of this than we are. The issue tied to his request must be so important for him that he's offering this risky deal. We need to be cautious. So do we have a deal? No, sir, we do not have a deal. We are not going to be good friends. I regret coming here to see you. Let's leave. We have made an enemy, friends. Another enemy. We have many enemies. The way this game is going, I would not be at all surprised if we are assassinated. In fact, we've even made enemies out of people we wanted to make friends with by refusing to veto that bill changing campaign finance. He most certainly pushed it too far. Oh dear. Well. Let's look at the newspapers. What do they have to say? Construction begins on the highway. Keebner suggests expanding executive powers. The leader of the NFP, that's the fascist party. Of course he'd propose that. We will not go along. No way, no how. Risky highway project. This is, yeah, okay. How is it risky? The old and outdated state corporation. Oh no, we will improve the state corporation. We will bring it up to the demands of our situation. The reform demand gains popularity. Latest public opinion report shows the majority of Swordish people want changes in government structures. I agree. We did get elected, after all, on a promise to change the Constitution. So hopefully we can make that happen. Workers' Party Solidarity March, the pro-minority Workers' Party of Voludia rally attracted a large audience. That's good. Declared solidarity with Bernard Circus. We miss Bernard. Among the speakers was Mansoon Leakey, a Bloodish member of the Assembly, who is standing as leader of the independents in the Grand National Assembly. Interesting. We still definitely, very much need to focus on improving the lives of Bloodish workers and the common people among that particular racialized group. That's the way we will stop the potential for their exploitation by our enemies. Okay. Oops. Let's go back to the capital. What's happening here? Time to talk about the economic relief plan. We are down to 2 government budget, and our economy has slipped 1 since the last time we looked. That's a problem. With the assistance of the National Business Council and the Central Bank, Simon Hole, the Minister of the Economy, put forward a countrywide relief plan to mitigate the economic hardships. We can either provide stimulus checks or bail out businesses. Well, we will most certainly provide stimulus checks. We rely on the support of our people. They are the only ones who will keep us in power. Now our budget is down to 1. We are in some trouble. The Economist newspaper does not like it. Fallen for populism? You are correct, economists. We do like being popular. Okay. Let's read the report from Halsord, the leader of the NFP, the fascist party, has demanded an emergency be called to address the increasing political violence in the country. He stated that without a declaration of emergency, Swordland would be destabilized and the integrity of the country would be damaged further. I say that he should be arrested on the spot in order to prevent the same thing. So let's look at Dyer. Ooh, we need to attend the funeral. We will absolutely attend the funeral. He was a hero, after all, to our people. Looks like it was going to rain. The music has changed. That is a little bit concerning. As expected, Bernard Circus's passing maintained its media traction, and all of Swordland was paying attention to the ceremony, especially to what I would say in my speech. Oh, Serge, I do love you, Serge. We have arrived. Raindrops were running down the car window when Serge had opened my door and held an umbrella over my head. As soon as I got out, flashes from the cameras blinded me. That's okay, Serge, I will hold my own umbrella. As you wish, sir. He handed me the umbrella and started waiting next to the car with his own. Pietr and Karl exited from their own cars in the convoy. They made their way over to me. Who's Karl again, chief of police? Sure. Anton, Pietr says. Mr. President, Karl says. I just wanted to inform you that the perimeter is clear and secured completely. Very important in this case. There is no one getting in or out without our knowledge. Well, we can threaten him, or we can just... Yeah. I'm a little bit concerned that he might be joining the plot against me and against the communists. He is a cop, after all. I think I'm going to mildly threaten him. Our wife is indeed a powerhouse. Pietr let out a laugh which drew some attention from the bereaving attendees. Interesting. Well, we can compliment our friend who says the wrong things at the wrong time pretty consistently. Or we can ask him to lower his voice so not to get us into trouble. I think we'll ask him to lower his voice. We have a small problem, Carl says. Red Youth members are here to attend the funeral. They apparently said their wish was to give respects to their fallen comrade. Yes, we should absolutely let them in. Yes. 100% yes. Then let's head over. They might theoretically assassinate us. It's possible, because we did, after all, get their party defunded. That was a mistake. But now we're trying to make up for our mistakes. Let's see if it works. Bernard's widow and daughter were in the front row, staring at the coffin with a mixture of disbelief, confusion, and above all, a cold, unforgiving sadness. Both of their eyes were very red and swollen from weeping. Before taking my place to observe the ceremony, I gave my condolences to Bernard's wife and his daughter, who looked at me. She reminded me of Deanna. When the religious ceremony was done, I was invited by the priest to deliver my speech. I took the podium. I felt like I had a lump in my throat. I couldn't get the daughter's eyes out of my head. Today, we are mourning Bernard Circus, a father, a husband, and a loyal servant of this country. Towards the back of the crowd, I spotted members of the Red Youth wearing red shirts and black bands of mourning on their arms. They seemed ruly and were respectful, bowing their heads after the dead. I knew it. There was a complete silence except for the raindrops. He was a true comrade, and he fought for what he believed in, his ideal vision of Swordland in every step of his life. Circus had a dream of a unified Swordland. In these next months, we will need to fulfill his dream and band together. I think that's right. The tears of the family he left behind has a price that needs to be paid. I will not stop until it is paid in full. That's right, we will crush the fascists with their very own iron boot. I would now like to recite one of the poems he has left us. Now we get to write a poem for him. Fun how that works. We rise toward the sun. Those who died, died fighting. They are now buried in the sun. No need to mourn. There is a raid to the sun. Apparently, I still have some sniffles. A moment of silence, please. During the silence, all that was heard was the ravens. Some attendees started clapping, some crying. We are popular friends. The coffin was lowered into the grave by the gravekeepers. After a couple minutes, Bernard Circus was with the soil no more. Well, we could do our little nationalist sort of plea from the previous revolutionary movement, which we only kind of mostly supported in the first place. Or we could just choose to step down and end this on a high note where people are crying and clapping and all that. I think we will be gracious and step down now. It was time to leave. The widow thanked me with a soft and defeated voice before we disappeared. On the way back to the car, I still couldn't get the eyes of Bernard's daughter, nor the faltering voice of his wife out of my head. Would Deanna, Monica, and Frank look the same way if something happened to me? Undoubtedly they would. I am a good husband and a good father, after all. Politics is a very sad business, especially when fascists have guns. Pietro liked my speech. Thank you, I mean it. I know you do, he says. It's time to go. We have work to do. Black clouds slowly dispersed and sunbeams enlightened our surroundings. As someone once said, even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. Hope was still on the horizon. Oh, I feel good about our future. I was worried just a few minutes ago as our budget was falling and our country seemed to be plunging into chaos, and foreign power seemed ready to invade us at a moment's notice, and all hell was breaking loose. But now I'm confident, for I've given a very fine speech. And nothing in the world is better than a very fine speech. I mean, other than very fine policy, I suppose. The Blue Mansion in Leckhaven hosted us for the important diplomacy gathering. The door opened and David Whiskey, once a lecturer to me, now the Minister of Foreign Affairs, gently made his way toward my desk. Let's look at this guy. Okay, so he's a diplomat, an ambassador, and a politician. Serves as the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade. What's his, he's still seen as controversial. Oh, he helped out 10,000 immigrants of Sourish and Bloodish origin. We also helped immigrants during our backstory section of this here game. So we have common ground. It is a pleasure to see you. Yes, it is. So much ahead. He slowly sat down, taking care not to aggravate the arthritis in his knees. He's always had an air of gravitas to him, and old age has only served to deepen that. After he settled himself, he regarded me with delight, his blue eyes sparkling. Look at you, Anton, the 4th president of Swordland. What a privilege for me. Well, the privilege is all mine. I'll be sure to say that if I have the option. I still remember the first day you took my class, and remember how hard we worked on the Agnolia trade agreement together. Yes, we did. Countless late nights. It was an experience. Yes, it was. We signed our best trade deal yet with a good slew of trade advantages. It was somewhat unfair from my point of view. I agree, and the Agnolians agree too. Somehow, the inexplicable ebb and flow of life has led us here, to positions where we can change the course of history. I'm tempted to be humble and say we got lucky. I don't believe in fate. But I think we should look forward and say this is indeed our opportunity. Oh dear, he has a cough. I hope it isn't COVID. How is your health, David? Oh, I haven't had any big complications except the usual, after that heart attack earlier this year. The health complications aren't a hindrance to my work, of course, but thanks for asking. How is the Rain family? I'm going to choose to compliment Monica. I do love Monica. As time passes, I realize it more. Family is the most important thing in life. We must take care of them. The door opened and Yosef and Dinosaur joined us for the briefing as the tall case clock hit the hour mark. Pieter, however, was missing. I wondered if he was late from all the drinking he did at the party at Leckhaven. Oh, Pieter. I need a new vice president. I don't even know. This guy's not super effective. He's loud at the wrong times and he's quiet at the wrong times. It's all out of whack. We'll talk more later, President Rain. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so... well, let's do some pleasantries. How was your travel to Leckhaven? Yosef said it was a little bumpy due to some turbulence. Arrived via a military cargo plane. Well, lucky you. Dinosaur took the train. It was a little slow because we did not build the high-speed train line. but he can still recommend it for the beautiful landscape. He also had the possibility to work on a couple of things during the ride. Well then, since Mr. Vecturn doesn't seem to be coming today, I think we're ready to start. I will start by providing a brief overview of our current status with our neighbors. What would you like to start with? Well, I really do want to pursue relations with Valgsland. Agnolia is also high on my priority list, and I would like to renegotiate that trade deal, to be fair. I don't know much about Wayland. I forget what the deal is with Wayland. So let's start with our big priority, Valgsland. Our cousins of old across the Mercian Sea wish to have good relations with us. As we all know, Valgsland is a socialist republic aligned with United Cortana. They are an important regional player. It's also the most significant sea power in Eastern Mercopia. We had hostile relations with them after several wars in the 19th century, which we wouldn't want to experience again. Well, I promise you we will not experience it. We will in fact be close with them. Reluctantly, their relationship has warmed up, thanks to Emmerich Hegel. As a result, diplomatic talks can be conducted in the future. That's good to hear. Breaking the ice could be good if we are to rise diplomatically. I agree they could be potential allies in my opinion. The situation in the region necessitates that we find allies. It sure does. They haven't been in good relations with us for the past 200 years, Yosef says. Wasn't Yosef trying to warn me about the threat of invasion? We need allies, Yosef. Recently, they've also joined the communist Contanan Security Pact, subjecting themselves to United Cortana. Well, I think that realistically, we will too, pretty soon. On top of that, territorial issues flare up between Agnolia and Valskland because of an island. The Swordish Navy is very concerned with this volatile situation. Lucian looks slightly worried. Unfortunately, billions of Swordish Ren worth of cargo is transported close to Valgslandian maritime borders on the Marcian Sea and the Grey Strait. This causes significant risks to our imports and exports in the case of a deterioration in relations. Okay, interesting. We will say that the strait is of high strategic value to us. They are monitoring. I probably just sort of said I wasn't worried about it because that would put our soldiers at ease and allow us to pursue a diplomatic course. But oh well, not a big deal. Let's hear about Agnolia, our brotherly nation. They are still diplomatically non-aligned and one of the most democratic systems between our neighbors. Economic stagnation is a worry for them. Their primary issue is their heavy reliance on foreign investment from us. Seems like we have dominated their economy through the trade deal that was signed decades ago. Agnolia is our most friendly neighbor. We have been allies for the longest time after Rumburg annexed Dome. This fact needs to be part of the equation. Unsurprisingly, the Agnolian Prime Minister, Martin van Houten, is expecting better cooperation through a new fairer trade deal with us. It was one of his election mandates. So, they are enemies of our would-be friends across the water. However, if we renegotiate the trade deal with them, we should be able to get both sides on our side. The concern, of course, is that by renegotiating the trade deal, our economy could suffer, and our economy is one of our biggest priorities at the moment. So there is no good option, but there are options that allow us to find priorities. I do believe it sounds beneficial to renegotiate. Both sides could gain from it, which is excellent. Hopefully, what I'm worried about is that we do not lose from it. We do want to be fair, though. We want to be of the people. And there's a lot of former Agnolian refugees in the northern part of our country that could be very angry if we treat their homeland poorly. They do want to introduce protectionism, so that's a bit of a concern. Yes, this is exactly what I was concerned about. I already covered this ground, and that's that we have a lot of people who were formerly Agnolians in the north part of our country. Now, Yosef thinks that a relaxed immigration policy is unacceptable. Most of the migrants in our country haven't assimilated. Here's the thing. I don't give a damn about assimilation. I want people to keep their own cultural traditions alive as much as possible. I do not like this general with his Hitler stash. I am supportive of relaxed immigration. Society and values, you say. Well, we're going to make an enemy of you very soon, Mr. General. Be prepared. We should remember that we promised to keep our immigration laws relaxed in the election campaign. Correct, we did. What about Wayland? We don't know anything about Wayland. Oh, it's over here, I see. This is that kind of dictatorship country that we did not like. Viktor Smolak is expanding his power among protests from Wayzek people. However, he is quite positive about a normalization of relations between our countries. We are not so positive, Mr. Smolak. Reports indicate that they have been warming up to Contanan international aid. Oh, that's interesting. As you know, Wayland's stability was always a concern for the region. But if we want to help them, we must not treat refugees like we did in the 30s. I agree. Both you and I, David Whiskey, helped smuggle refugees across the border. I still can't stomach the inhumanity of those people suffered. That is not a good sentence, game. Oh well. Okay, so we will definitely house refugees. Let's see if we can influence this country. I don't much like the president, but it's a good idea. Okay. We do want to avoid a refugee crisis, yes. If we can improve the lives of people in that country, that would be great. One of the demands of President Smolak was to tighten our immigration laws. The political refugees don't escape. This is why I didn't like him, by the way. There has been a recent purge that pushed many Bludish to flee to Bergia. It is definitely troubling. Gumran Outpost has regained its importance due to this. I am sure you would remember that winter at the border outpost, Mr. President. He was right, I did remember that winter. I remembered how cold it was when I let the refugees slip through. I was discharged of my duties as a result, by Major Yosef Lancia, no less, spending the rest of my service cleaning toilets and sleeping in a cell. Yosef. I'd forgotten that you were the same person who imprisoned us way back when, but now that I remember, I will never forget again. In fact, there had been a similar refugee situation in the past. Even Mr. President himself chose to disobey direct orders from his commanding officer at the time. Like I just said, chat, I will never forget that. That is the point of disciplinary action, he says. He opened his mouth to continue, but David cut in. Our focus should be on the current matters. The Bludish minority is very large inside Wayland too, which is a factor to consider. It is in our national interest to prevent the formation of a failed state on our western border. Correct? Wayland has been increasingly aligning itself towards the Communist Alliance, another point to analyze. Yes, Dinosaur, we will analyze it. Let's move on. Two important neighboring countries remain, Lesbia and Rumburg. Which would you like to hear about first? Well, let's hear about Lesbia before we get to the real meat of the matter, which is Rumburg, our great enemy. Lesbia is down here. They're our southerly neighbor that is aligning itself more with Arcasia. Lesbia is currently led by President Patricio Alvarez. They are the jewel of the continent and the second largest economy in Mercopa. Though wealthy, Lesbia suffers from excessive economic inequality. They are also enemies of ours. Our past relations have been great, but during the last decade, their investments to Swordland dwindled due to our instability. Well, we could either say something unflattering about them, turning a blind eye to the region, or we could choose to be smart and not awaken the sleeping giant. I think ultimately not awaking them is a good idea, as long as we can get away with it. We have too many enemies as it is. They are surely a powerful nation, which has for not meddled in the region for a long time. I like this game a lot, and I like the writing and storytelling, but there is a need for an editor, I think. With the exception of Wayland, let's not antagonize them. I am certain that the recession has a lot to do with their retraction of investments. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Once they see that money isn't in the picture, they vanish rather quickly because they are capitalists. Flight of capital will be one of our biggest economic barriers in the future. They have shown a selfish attitude towards the Wayland Civil War by closing their borders and funneling refugees to cross into Swordland. Lucian clears his throat. Our values are too different. It'll be hard to see eye to eye. Whiskey completely agrees. Lesbia has for a long time benefited from us through our old tariffs. They are after exploitation, and we shall not give it to them. There are hundreds of very privileged oligarchs who invest inside and outside of Lesbia. Some made significant business investments in the cities of Benfey and Volgan. Oh, Dinosaur, what do you mean by that? What is the situation with Rumburg? This is the scary thing. The most troublesome nation of Rumburg, a constitutional monarchy led by Queen Beatrice Livingston. I highly advise caution and calculated action against Rumsburg, says Yosef. Our military must be prepared. The threat is real. They are strong and have the motivation as well as the means to damage us. We shouldn't give them any reasons to pursue aggression. None of these seem like wonderful responses, but none of them seem awful. We could take his advice in consideration, saying nothing. We could say that Rumsburg is and always will be a rogue-like state. Nothing can be done about them. Or we can try to prevent them from interfering in our affairs. Let's pick number 3. We'll pick a more aggressive approach. They have shown similar behavior to their neighboring countries before, but we must be cautious. They did, in fact, invade their neighbor a few decades ago. We learned that earlier. While Thornborough openly denies such claims, their past and current action make it clear that they want to destabilize us. The weapon caches found by our intelligence agency clearly shows what their goals are. Our military must be steadfast, and our diplomacy valiant. Yosef looked stern and full of resolve. The threat is one of our top priorities. We're not going to increase military spending, but we are going to try to find other ways to find allies in the region and hold them at bay. We are always in dialogue with our Rumburg ambassador to make sure a channel is open to solve disputes. We could use their aggressive attitude against them, says Dinosaur, by convincing the international community. Lucian grabbed the Lecavan Times newspaper and put his finger on the article about the latest diplomatic incident. Their abrupt announcement about the closure of the Rumburg consulate in Lecavan is another step in their escalation. Yes, it is. It's dangerous. This covers the overview of the current situation. We will move on to our trade choice and the response to Rumburg's diplomatic escalation. The sun began to set over the hills surrounding Lecavan. The team was ready to give advice on the new trade initiative and the response to the latest diplomatic incident with Rumburg. Pieter arrived late and a little rougher than usual. It must have been the drinking from last night. Pieter says, "Hey there, folks. Excuse my delay." "I will excuse nothing, Pieter. You know better." "I'm sure I didn't miss anything that we didn't already know." "Ha! You were still supposed to be part of this meeting, also on time, and I agree with Yosef for once." "Punctuality is important," says Dinosaur. "We are talking about serious subjects here." "Well, we could cover for him. We could be mad at him along with our other advisors, or we could choose to say nothing." "I think we should be mad at him. We have not enjoyed Pieter. We might make an enemy of him yet, but at the same time, we don't want him to say the wrong thing and slip up in a sense that'll get us executed, especially with fascists on the loose." Lucian and Yosef looked at Pieter before David moved away from the subject. "The vice president will be part of the trade delegation, so it is great to have input on that subject, but also on the Rumburg incident. These are two issues at hand. Which topic should we tackle first?" Let's tackle trade negotiations first. Our primary goal will be to successfully sign a trade agreement with one of our smaller neighbors. We have two options: start new negotiations with our old partner Agnolia, and forming a new cooperation with Wayland. Why not do both? Well, let's do Agnolia first. I do want to solidify them as an ally. First off, the reason behind this option is more diplomatic than economic, correct? Of course, we can't forego the added economic value. Agnolia is an old ally and a valuable trade partner. We need the alliance to secure our border without increasing military spending. The point we are at with the early negotiations is around the steel trade. They are demanding that we buy their steel for a higher price. That is because they think that the deal is far too unbalanced as it is. Their second main demand is a privileged access to our agricultural market. Oops, where are we? If we are to fulfill their demands, in return they are offering a full alliance against Rumburg. That is what we want. Yes, people, that is what we want. Looking at the current advances of Rumburg near our borders, having a coalition would prove extremely useful, says Yosef. Obviously, there will be consequences for entering a full alliance. Mainly, the issue is around the Helgi Islands. Valgsland has clear intentions on taking over the island one way or another, and entering a military alliance will make them furious. Well, that's trouble. We really did want Valgsland as an ally as well. It seems that we have to choose sides here, and I'm not quite sure what to do, because Valgsland has connections to the Comintern, to the Eastern Alliance, and they also have a strong navy which will blockade our ports if they hate us enough. On the other hand, I do think it's important to ally with Agnolia. Yosef seems to agree. It does seem like my advisors are pushing us in that direction. And we really do trust David Whiskey here. So, yeah. Let's do it. Maybe we can apologize to Vexland and make this work. They have a very democratic system. Relaxed immigration is wonderful. And the highway construction will indeed help. Regardless, if we're going to increase our regional influence to previous levels, we might need to make amends. The decision is certainly up to me. Tell me about the trade deal. Dealing with a fractured country has positives and negatives. It'll be lucrative in the short term, but there are risks associated with dealing with such a country. They are proposing co-investment projects and a no-tariff agreement. They are also offering oil in return for attracting foreign capital interests from Swordland. However, it is possible that there will be international ramifications of getting closer. That is interesting. Oops. So what was the deal again in terms of their international what's-its? Oh, right. They were the site of a proxy war. So the influence of the East is rising. We like that. He used privileged rich businessmen as a scapegoat. We like that. But he's talked about not wanting open borders, which we don't like. He's imprisoning journalists and activists, which we very much don't like. That's interesting. Joseph does not support this. Pieter thinks it's useful but risky. And David says it's simply too risky. You might be right, it's risky. If we wish to go forward with the deal when the time comes, there is the topic of immigration. Smolak is a known isolationist. We do like his Eastern influence. We do not like his lack of democracy whatsoever. Even Dinosaur agrees. Pieter disagrees. He thinks we should give it a try. He's the only one. Our campaign promised to steer Swordland toward East, and United Cortana will have an effect on those negotiations. That's a good point. Especially with Wayland. As you know, the current affairs of Wayland are partly a result of United Cortana's support of Victor Smolak. Our promise will come in handy. Interesting. As for Agnolia, the promise has made them cautious, which might make it harder to get a good deal. We need to consider the effects of our economic doctrine. The fact that we are headed towards a planned economy will have an influence. Good negotiators optimize the interests which make the differences become trivial, allowing both sides to reach a deal. Hey, Pieter, you said something intelligent for once. That's good. Very true. We have a lot of time to prepare before the scheduled visits to Wayland and Agnolia. I believe this gives a brief overview of our current options. We should address the diplomatic incident. Rumburg Council Sir Bran Harrington announced the closure of the 120-year-old consulate. Now their diplomatic staff is leaving this city to go back to Thornborough. He blamed the lack of security in Swordland due to the assassination and the subsequent protests. But it is obvious that they are making excuses. Bastards, says Joseph. First they close their consulate, and then they blame our security? Interesting. I think they're playing with us. Pieter says, isn't it telling when other countries are working with us while Rumburg is just cutting more ties with us? Joseph thinks the neglect of President Alfonso and the chaos of the elections delayed our diplomatic efforts. Now there are only 2 Rumburg diplomatic missions left in Swordland. One is in Dyer, and the other is the embassy in Hallsword. I think we are accustomed to the usual rhetoric, but this is far more serious. It's the reason why we're pursuing an alliance with a power that might cut our ties to the east, which we don't really want. They are playing with fire. Look at what the Wayland destabilization has done to the region. Swordland breaking apart would tear Mercopa apart. In my entire career, I have never seen our Rumburg relations suffer this much. The previous low point was the annexation of Dome, and we indeed do not want to be the next Dome. Yosef was furious. He barely kept himself from slamming the desk. There are worrying developments like the smuggled arms and the buildup near the border. Our military must be buffed up to stand against a regional power like Rumburg. We either respond to this aggressive act with a diplomatic condemnation, or we retaliate by closing our consulate. I want to say, says Dinosaur, that an escalation would be risky this early in our presidency. We should focus on creating a negative image of Rumburg in the international scene. Yosef says the people of Swordland must be protected no matter the cost. He says we must respond equally. I don't want to retaliate by closing the embassy. Let's write an official diplomatic response. Declare that Rumburg attempts to destabilize the region. As you wish, Mr. President, I shall begin work by immediately informing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Swaying the international stage is key in the long-term strategy. Sure. I wish we had reacted more strongly, says the general, because of course he does. All generals want to be strong. If we don't confront them, they will keep escalating the situation. On the other hand, says Pietro, he's glad that we are taking the more cautious road. I agree. Our trade delegation will begin work toward the end of the year. We expect a final negotiation and the signing to happen next year. Pietro's very much looking forward to visiting Stallport and Warklowitz with party animals like David and Simon. Ha ha ha. Oh, Pietro. He laughed. Yosef narrowed his eyes and stared at him. I agree, Yosef. Pietro is bad news. Well, that concludes our meeting, Mr. Rain. Thank you all for coming. Dinosaur will take his leave. General Guy says, sir. And we are dispersing. The game has saved, and we have 7 more news items to look at. But now that I look at the time, we're a little over an hour on this episode yet again, so I think it's time to say adieu and see you next time. We'll be back with another YouTube episode really quick, so stick with us, don't go very far, keep us subscribed, and watch the news, people. We'll be right back.